Thank you. So now we are waiting for the debate. If someone wants to ask questions to the panel ladies. Yes, Carrie. And could Vanessa, is Vanessa here? No. Could you please bring the microphone to people who wants to, yes.
I have to tell you a story before I start because I always put up my hand. At a conference in which I participated, I came 2 minutes late into the room, and the first speaker had already started, and then he stopped saying and said, "Gosh, this is the lady with the difficult questions." So I feel I take on the run. I'll try not to be difficult, I promise. But I have a question to each of you, if that is possible, very quick. To the first speaker from Romania, it could be experienced or interpreted that you would always go for one way and not the other. And my question is, would you, instead of going for a middle way, as you said, use an eclectic way? That means sometimes I am using the constructivist, sometimes I'm using the socio-constructivist. So that would be eclectic and not a middle, because the middle is a bit from each. But I might also decide to use only one. Then to the second, did you look at using critical incidents as a research instrument in terms of when do beliefs change? Because based on my own research and also my own experience, what really made me change was a critical incident in my teaching period. And I changed my beliefs on homework like that, how to, etc., etc. So did you use that, or do you think it could be an idea to use critical incidents? And then to the last one, at burnout, and this is something that I'm doing quite a lot of work on. I'm working on a big project on attrition from teaching. But based on your findings, when you did a correlation, I don't know if it was a statistical correlation, you found that there was a correlation between the teachers who were less competent and burnout. What we have found is very often a correlation between motivation and burnout. That those who go into teaching with what we would call an altruistic motivation, I want to be a good teacher, I want to save the world, I want to do good for children, and so on, they are burned out because they start teaching and they see that very much of their work is not like that. And with the increased accountability, they have to document, and they are being controlled, etc., etc. And that is not what they wanted to do, and therefore they leave. They burn out and they leave. So these are just questions.
Anyone wants to ask a question? No? Yes? I will ask a question for the burnout lady. Did you find any relation between the levels of burnout and the level of if they are primary school teachers or secondary school teachers, which one of them were more burnout? And about gender, also gender differences, because there are gender differences in the literature. So I would like to ask you about that, and about the other ladies, about metaphors. This was an afternoon for metaphors, and I'm not at all a metaphoric person, and I use it. I find it very difficult to find metaphors to explain what I do. I had to do a work at when I was doing my PhD, and I titled it "Desperately Looking for a Metaphor," because I had to look for a metaphor and I couldn't find. So, how useful do you find metaphors for teacher training? That's what I would like to ask. Thank you very much. So,
There are no other questions, so first of all, yeah, maybe it was not more than a question, it was more than an observation, and you were right, our colleague from Norway. I was just trying to avoid labeling one behavior or another, which I think it's very important not to put a stamp on someone as being constructivist or being modern or being very traditional. It was a middling solution for finding the best attitude of taking from one side the best behaviors for a teaching profession. So I think it's a matter of finding the right word, and since we are talking about metaphors, so yes, we are entering in this. My intention is, no matter how we call it, it might be eclectic, it might be in the middle. My intention was exactly to take the good part from each perspective, which I do believe that it's not good in education to label and to stay, like you said, black and white. And of course, I'm not a metaphor person myself sometimes. Maybe in Portugal I behave more metaphorically than at home. But yes, I do believe that this way of reflective on teachers' beliefs and their behavior in classroom is very important, because it helps you to see beyond the double language teachers have. Because we all know that we say things, but sometimes we behave in other way around. So we don't teach what we preach. And this way we can see beyond this, because sometimes when you want just to answer a question like teaching is something, you put in front of the others exactly your thought. Otherwise you would say in a very political way, but in this way it's a slip of your tongue and you put your thought there. Because someone said it's not the same story if a teacher defines a student as a food, as a person in a circus, as a clay to be molded. It's important for education in this way. So I do believe that in this way you can go beyond the declaration of teachers and you arrive to the real truth and the real behaviors. So that was the question.
Okay, thanks for the question. So in my study, there were no critical incidents involved. In the research study concerning to teachers' beliefs, which was a bigger one, there were interviews, and in the interviews there were different types of questions, and those critical incidents, it's interesting, those were already written incidents, and not the teachers' own stories and own incidents, and they have to decide and evaluate those situations. In my research study, it was a written narrative story, and it's interesting because in some types of story of change in learning, they had these critical points, but in others they haven't got. So, for example, I think one of the most interesting types of interpreting change in their lives was this step-by-step story. So the analysis always based on narrative analysis according to Clandinin and Connelly, and the step-by-step meant that they felt that they always moved a little bit forward, and usually the student peers were the most supportive in the higher education context. And in these stories there were no critical incidents. They just moved forward step by step, and the major help weren't the teachers, so the teacher educators, but the peers. But of course in the decline stories, yes, there were serious critical incidents. Okay, thanks. And of course it would be helpful to consider this as a new instrument.
I have problem to answer of your first question, because I correlate a lot of factors between burnout syndrome and some other psychological factors, not motivation. What kind of? Ways of coping, social support, fears. But I prepared two ways of research. One, quantitative, second, qualitative. And in this qualitative research, I look for a lot of situations which can be to drive to burnout. And I know that the person who was more burnout, but in qualitative research, had less motivation. But that's all. It is a very big problem to show the correlation between motivation in the quantitative research. But now I know that people who are more burnout, not only risk burnout, they have less motivation to the job. Or if they, in the first, if we show Pine's theory, that we know that people who are in the fire, in the first, can to be burnout more like people who who haven't first motivation, you know. But it is only one of the theory of the burnout.
Can I just comment on that? It's a very good quantitative instrument for measuring teachers' motivation for teaching. Mm-hmm. You can Google it and you'll find it. It's developed by Wharton Richardson from Australia, and it is called the Fit Choice Instrument. Oh. And it has been used internationally in quite a few countries. Fit, F-I-T, choice. Okay. Instrument, and it's a very good quantitative instrument measuring a motivation for teaching. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for your help. And your Anna question first. Gender is very important. It is very interesting because I prepared two ways of research about burnout. First, teacher burnout, professional burnout. Second, parents of children with disability. Because I am special educator, I am therapist, not only pedagogist. And it is interesting because in professional teacher burnout, have more problem women, but they have different ways of burnout. Oh, it's a pity that I haven't Blackbird, because I'll show you Maslach theory. That is sequential theory. First, it is emotional exhaustion. Second, it is depersonalization. Last, it is reduced of personal accomplishment. But it's different way to burnout for men and women. Women are more emotional exhaustion, and they have reduced of personal accomplishment, but they don't depersonalization pupils. But men are different. Yes. You know, I researched, my population was almost 700 people. Oh, sorry. I don't remember now how many men, but they don't emotional exhaustions. They don't. But they depersonalized pupils. Sometimes they have problem with accomplishment, but not always. This is different way. But very interesting, in my second research about parents of children with disability, because more parents, fathers, more burnout than women. It is impossible, but it is true. Of course, in my research. And last, what kind of school? Yes, but first, in integration school and special school, they have more problems like in regular school. It is first conclusion. And second, that in preliminary school is more burnout like in high schools.
Yeah, I see.
I think it is problem maybe with competence, skills. That's all.
Thank you. No, I'm going to. If you have no more questions, I will invite you to the coffee break, and after the coffee break, we if you choose workshop 1, you will come here to the conference room, because if you choose workshops 2 or 3, we will go to Senate Hall, which is done all the way down this corridor, and you will have a poster. So if you choose workshop 1, you'll deal with teacher and learning and the consequences for teacher education. Workshop 2 is European teacher and its consequences. And workshop 3 is lifelong learning. Have a nice break. Afterwards, you go directly to the workshop rooms, and you will come back here, please, with the moderators at 5:30, okay? Thank you very much.